Now, before we begin, I want to say that Rebecca Sugar and all the producers of the show have done something truly special and memorable. I just wanted to make this video to express an opinion. So, way back in 2013, I discovered one of Cartoon Network's newest shows. Not Teen Titans Go, which I will talk about in a later video, Steven Universe. When I watched it, I was delighted. The characters were intriguing and charming, the artwork and animation was beautiful, and there was a little mystery behind it. What were they doing all these missions before? It wasn't until a few years later when I changed my affiliation to the Homeworld Gems. Why, you may ask? Because I find the crystal gems to be the evil ones, not Homeworld. Allow me to elaborate. Now, the first thing is the whole corrupted gem deal. In the beginning of the show, these weird creatures are what the whole missions are about. At the time, we see them as monsters that are doing something that needs to be stopped. They don't really explain why. After a quick battle, they bubble the monster's gem and poof it. The bubble then heads to Garnet's room in the temple, where it is archived with hundreds of others. This is what bothered me. The corrupted gems were just doing whatever they were doing, and the gems not only put an end to their freedom, they imprisoned them. You might argue, oh, they were only doing that until they find a cure. They did find a cure in Steven, and they haven't done anything. At this point, you could also argue, hey, they did not do that, then they didn't, and it didn't work, and they returned it with its own kind. So, hypothetical viewer, if it didn't work and it returned it with its own friends, why even go through the trouble to capture and bubble them at all? Maybe because they're not future actions to help add some pros to their list. Maybe they're trophies of all of their past victories. Moving on. The next part is the whole thing about the Homeworld Gems. In the extended version of the Steven Universe theme song, the lyrics say, and I quote, "If you're evil and you're on the rise, you can count on the four of us taking you down, 'cause we're good and evil never beats us." This is what bothers me. The word good has no meaning whatsoever. You can say that a random person on the street is good, but they might not be. That's what the gems are, strangers. We have very little information on why they do what they do and what they have done. And the very few scenes where we do hear about some sort of backstory, it's probably fudged up a little bit to keep Steven thinking they're the good guys. On to the next bit. Some 2,000 years ago, the Crystal Gem Army launches a massive war against Homeworld. This was because Rose Quartz was fascinated by humans and wanted to prevent it from being a gem colony. She reported this to her commander, Pink Diamond. Her commander obviously imposed, and there was a bit of a tussle, and according to Eyeball, Ruby, who witnessed the scene, saw Rose shatter her. After this, Homeworld was bent on destroying the crystal gems and making a new colony out of Earth. Somehow, since the only members of the crystal gems were Rose, Pearl, Garnet, Bismuth, and some named Crazy Legs, Big, and Snowflake, this is 7 gems against an empire that probably has tens of millions of warriors. And somehow they won. In fact, Bismuth recalls she and Garnet defeated over 3 battalions of Quartz soldiers. If you Google those numbers, which I did, it equals to U.S. Army standards. That would equal around 2,400 soldiers. The two of them defeated all of them. Somehow. Moving on. This was a massive one-sided war that the gems somehow won. The only battle I could think of being this one-sided was the Battle of Hamahatsu Castle, when it was 5 men against at least 2,000. They won through cleverness and bravery. Anyway, Homeworld pulled away and focused his eyes on more planets ready to colonize. But they still kept their eyes on Earth, and they planted something called the cluster to destroy it from the inside out. For the next 2,000 years, the gems pretty much do what I mentioned earlier. They just traveled all around a lot. I captured corrupted gems, and I tried not to interfere with human society. Except this wasn't necessarily a good thing. They had absolutely no contact or information from the advancing homeworld and their technology. And in one episode in which Homeworld sends a spaceship that is weirdly shaped like a hand down to inspect, they are captured, and they have absolutely no resistance to new gem technology. This is because they haven't been in touch with Homeworld for the past 2,000 years. Now, at this point, you may have righteously decided to click out of the video because you strongly disagree with my views. Now, this may be because the show is taking place on planet Earth. We are humans of this planet, and thus, this is genius in Rebecca Sugar's part, because she could have made so many different planets, and could have made so many possible races to fill them. But she decided to stick with Earth. This is what I find is genius. Mainly because because if it was a different planet, we wouldn't know very much about it, and we wouldn't really care about any of the characters, mainly because they weren't human, and thus they didn't really have any sort of emotional contact with us. But since this is Earth, and we populate this entire planet, it relies on us to extremely empathize with our main characters. The next thing I want to talk about is the kindergarten. Now, the kindergarten is basically the communal cloning facilities, but really, really creepy. The reason why is because there's very little light, and it's very foggy, and the massive gem drills stand there like giant statues that, and many believe that they could turn on at any point. Amethyst titled this place as just a place where bad gems could grow more bad gems, but I highly disagree. This is how gems are created. They aren't produced like us mammals, and they aren't laid like eggs. They have to be grown. They're basically plants. I and the and most of the gems that came out of these were either warriors or members of the lower class society who had to contribute more to the advancing homeworld empire. And this is where I will leave off for now. There is literally so much that I can say for this topic, I have to make 2 videos for it. Also, there is a really cool video by Channel Frederator that is in the link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Long live Homeworld.